Ahlan wa sahlan. Right now we're going to talk about one of the Arabic case endings for nouns. Again, case endings are called i'rab. And right now we're going to talk about al-majrur. Al-majrur is typically marked with a kasra on singular nouns. So if we were talking about a definite noun like al-kitab, if it were majrur because of something that happened in the sentence, it would have one kasra on it. Al-kitabi is how we would pronounce it fully vocalized. If it were indefinite, it would take a double kasra, which gives it tanween. Again, the sound of adding a noon at the end of the word. So we would pronounce this kitabin. On sound, regular masculine plurals, in Fusha, the ending is in rather than un, which is only for marfu'a nouns. Where do we see majrur? We usually see majrur after prepositions, that is, on nouns that follow a preposition, and we also see majrur endings on all of the nouns in an idafa except the first one, which takes whatever i'rab it normally would based on the circumstances of the sentence thus far. Sometimes you hear people call al-majrur the genitive case. If you have studied a language that has case endings, perhaps Russian or Latin or Greek, and that helps your understanding, great. If not, I would encourage you to just think of al-majrur as al-majrur. Why battle with two sets of terminology? Because the logic that applies to multiple languages works until sometimes it breaks down. So majrur is majrur. It may interest you to know that al-majrur is actually the most common case ending for nouns in most texts because idafas are everywhere in Arabic and prepositions are everywhere in Arabic. And we're going to look at some of them right now. Let's start with prepositions. In Arabic, we call a certain class of prepositions huruf al-jar. And notice that jar and majrur share that same judur root of jim ra ra. So we can think of a noun that is in majrur as a noun that has been prepositioned. Over here is a list of huruf jar, many of which you're probably very familiar with. And over here are some other prepositions that are not strictly speaking huruf jar as they are understood by the Arab grammarians who systematized the Arabic language, but for our purposes here, they function according to pretty much the same rules and we get the same results, and nouns that come after them are in majrur. Let's take a look at a few examples. A very simple sentence. If I wanted to say the student is in the big house, to be very banal. Okay, الطالب في البيت الكبير. الطالب, not going to be majrur, it's going to be marfu'a with a dhamma. You can watch a video about marfu'a because nothing else has happened. This is the beginning of the sentence. It's the mubtada, the subject of our sentence. The rest of the sentence is the khabar, a prepositional phrase. We have fi, harf jar, and now we have a noun and an adjective that come after it. Because of this fi, we need to use majrur. It's like the fi trips the wire that makes us need to use majrur. So it will sound fully vocalized like this. الطالب في البيت الكبير. So we have kasra here and kasra here because both of these words are majrur because of our preposition. Harf jar. Let's take another example. If we wanted to say, I got an excellent scholarship for studying in the Middle East, or to study in the Middle East. I could express it this way. حصلت على منحة ممتازة للدراسة في الشرق الأوسط. Ordinarily, in print, this is how we would see it. We probably wouldn't read this in a letter or a book or a newspaper article. But if we wanted to give it all of its i'rab, we would do it this way. I would say, okay, حصلت, that's a verb. That's a fixed verb conjugation ending the past. Ala, okay. Now I have a harf jar. That means the nouns and whatever adjectives modify them are also going to be majroor. So, حصلت على منحة. Minha is indefinite. It's not part of an idafa. That's an adjective. So I know that it's really indefinite. So it gets a double kasra, and so does the adjective that modifies it. حصلت على منحة ممتازة. Okay. للدراسة. Well, li is actually a preposition too. Another harf jar. And we elide that alif in الدراسة because li attaches right to it. للدراسة. So li is a preposition modifying الدراسة, which is definite, right? There's an alif lam in there, even if we don't see the alif, which means it's also majroor, but with only one kasra, because it's definite. للدراسة في, another preposition. They're everywhere. They're all over the place. الشرق, definite, one kasra. الأوسط. أوسط is an adjective modifying الشرق, so it also gets a kasra. So practically everything after our initial verb is majroor because of all those prepositions that we have floating around. حصلت على منحة ممتازة للدراسة في الشرق الأوسط. In an idafa, every single word of the idafa but the first will always take majroor case endings. The first word is going to take whatever case endings it would have taken depending on what had happened earlier in the sentence. When we're constructing a fully vocalized idafa, though, there is one extra little wrinkle, which is that even though the words before the end, no word in the idafa except the final one is going to have definite markings, they're all considered definite. They're part of a definite idea. So even though they don't have an alif lam on them or a possessive pronoun on them, they also don't take tanween. It's the only time where we're going to see nouns that look indefinite because they don't have alif lam but also don't take tanween. Let's look at a couple of examples. If I wanted to say, do you know the director's son, the son of the director? Let's assume that the director of our office is a woman. So I could say, هل تعرف, or let's say boy. ولد المديرة, the female director's boy or son. Here, since we have a verb, تعرف, ولد is the direct object of that verb. So it's going to be mansoob. You can go watch the mansoob video and learn or relearn all about that. So that's going to take the case ending that it would normally take until this far in the sentence. However, because it's part of an idafa, it's not going to take an alif lam, and it's not going to take tanween. This is a complete idea. ولد المديرة. Because this is not the first word of an idafa, it needs to take majroor. هل تعرفوا ولد المديرة؟ if we were pronouncing that final case ending. Let's look at another longer example. If I wanted to say, I don't like the director's son's cat, I would need to say, because of Arabic word order and the way it works, I don't like the cat of the son of the director. So here's how I would do it. لا أحب قطة ولد المديرة. This is how it would look in a normal text, but we want all of the i'rab. Okay, I don't like the cat of the son or the boy of the director. Well, here, قطة is the direct object of uhib. So again, it's going to be mansub. But it's part of a three-word idafa. So it has a definite meaning, and it isn't going to take tanween. No, it's going to stay that way. Now, walad is the second word of an idafa, which means it needs to be majroor. So it takes a kasra. But it's not the last word of the idafa. So it too, even though we're talking about a specific boy and a specific cat, it doesn't have that alif lam, and it also doesn't have tanween, because it's not really indefinite. We're talking about something specific. And now, al-mudira, because it's not the first word of the idafa, also takes a kasra. It has an alif lam. It's definite, and the whole idafa is definite. One last example. If I wanted to say I've been in the office with the cat and the son and the director, and I wanted to say I heard the murmuring or the muttering of the employees, I could express it this way. سمعت ثرثرة الموظفين. Here, سمعت, a verb with a direct object, ثرثرة, so I bet you know what happens. It's going to be mansub with one fatha, because this is an idafa. Now, موظف in the singular would take a kasra. However, since we are talking about multiple employees, and since this word is majroor because of its position in the idafa, it's going to be marked majroor with this ya nun. If we were talking about the employees as the subject of a sentence, then we would have to add the marfu'a ending, muwazzafun. But because this is the second word of an idafa, we say موظفين. سمعت ثرثرة الموظفين. And there is our fully vocalized idafa.